So let's try to understand where weather comes from. Most people believe weather comes from the sun. And depending on the axis that the earth is tilted on, how close you are to the sun, that's how hot you'll be, and the further away you'll be cold. The truth is that Siddur says this is not the case, because the amount of space that is between the earth and the sun, which is 80 million miles away, it wouldn't make any difference how you tilted the earth to be closer to the sun or further away from the sun. It's too minuscule to be counted as a factor. And the example that's given is like a mustard seed that's inside of a big room, that wouldn't make a difference what side of the seed is facing where to be considered hot or cold. But science wants us to believe that that's what allows for winter and summer to take place based on where we are as far as closeness goes to the sun. And Chassidus explains that in truth there's a ruchnistic energy that's moderating climate and directing the sun's energy to be hot or cold. Now there's specific regions on Earth that are controlled by a ruchnistic counterpart. Every specific place has their equal ruchnistic counterpart that is moderating the temperature for that specific region. Now, this energy is coming from the Galgalim, from the heavenly spheres. And in turn, they get their energy from the 10 spheres, from the world of Asiya, specifically the Kalim of the world of Asiya. It says that the Eibishter answers to the heavens as far as giving hashpah, and the heavens answer to earth. And here referring to heavens, referring to the Galgalim. So what comes out is, it appears as if the energy we get is from the sun, but in truth, the energy we get is from the ruchnistic levels that are causing the sun to focus its energy and its heat in specific places, in some places more, in some places less. Now, in general, on a side note, the sun is constantly bowing and being bottled to its source, which is Shem Havaya, and if the sun would stop being bottled for 1 second, it would lose all this energy that it transfers over to the world. The energy, it's not its own energy, it's getting energy on a ruchnistic level, and it's able to transfer that over to us. But it appears from where we are that it's its own energy, it's the sun's energy. But that's not the case. Now, this concept also applies when we talk about people's parnasa. Now, people work very hard, and they think that koichi v'otzim yadi, meaning to say, since the hashpah is being transferred through the goyim, we're living now in Galus, it's going through specifically Ayin Saram, these 70 spiritual ministering angels that are in control of all the nations. And since in Galus we live under those ministers, we live under those nations, so by definition it appears that we're getting our energy from those Ayin Saram. Now the truth is that the Ayin Saram are like Higarzim b'yad ha'chotzev. They're like a hammer in the hand of a craftsman that they have no choice of their own to give hashpah or to not give it. They're just a middleman that's transferring over what's coming into their hands, and they have no control whatsoever. And a person that puts his energy into assuming that it comes from them, he's worshipping Avodah Zarah, God forbid. Now, this all takes place in Golos when the 10 spheres, at the end of Seder Shtalshus, they go through those Ayin Sarim. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, it didn't have to go through the Ayin Sarim. In times of Mashiach, it won't go through Ayin Sarim. There won't be Ayin Sarim anymore. Now, these Ayin Sarim, they themselves know that there's an Eibishter. That's why they called Eibishter Lekad Lekaya, because even though it's considered to be Avodah Zarah for them, but they recognize that the Eibishter is the boss. And as much as they want to deny it outwardly and make as if it doesn't exist, deep down they know who's in control. And the same thing existed by Pari Mitzrayim, that deep down Klippa knows where its source is, knows where its marker is, but it chooses to make believe that it's not getting from the Eibishter. Now, the same would apply also. We say that if somebody hits you, you shouldn't get mad at the person because it's as if you're serving Avodah Zarah. It's quoted from Tanya. So why is that? because you're looking at that person caused it to you, when in truth the Eibishter caused it to you, and that person is just a shliach of the Eibishter. Which means to say that it's all about recognizing where all energy comes from. And once you figure that out, you'll understand that it's all from the Eibishter. Now the truth is that this whole concept of the example we gave about the weather is something that will allow even a guy to logically understand how the Eibishter is in control. Now, a Yid doesn't have to come on to these logical proofs, or any logical proofs about the Eibishter. A Yid automatically believes that there's an Eibishter because that's what the essence of a Yid is. A Yid's source comes from the Eibishter's Machshava, specifically referring to here Chochma D'Atzilus. It's even higher in that source, but for now we're just talking about Chochma D'Atzilus. And over there, the Eibishter, so to speak, his Machshava is constantly running, and it's always connected, meaning to say, Chochma and Bina of Atzilus are always connected as one, the same way a fountain is continuously giving forth water into a river where there's no off switch. But when it comes to the Goyim, they come from the Eibishter's Dibur. And when it comes to Dibur on a Chatzonistic level could appear that the words that leaves the Eibishter's mouth, so to speak, we're talking about on a level of Malchus of Atzilus, and the words leave forth and they go into the world of Bria, which over there is a makar ready for Klipas Noiga. So going come from that lower level through their shirish in the Pnei Shur, in the Merkava. But because the guy comes from the Eibishter's Dibur, it appears as if he's separate from the Eibishter. It appears as if the original Dibur that the Eibishter spoke is now running its own course. Like the guy looks at Teva, looks at nature, and he feels that there may have been a creator, but for now, nature is running its course, and this is the way the Dibur, the words that a person speaks, leaves the person, and they could no longer be changed. Once the person speaks those words are not renewable because they already left. On the other hand, when it comes to Machshava is consistently being renewed and consistently can change, and that's the way the Yid relates to the Eibishter, that he sees that every single second we're being powered by the Eibishter's words. So a Yid sees things much differently, and a Yid doesn't have to come on to proof. And even in Dibur alone, we say the guy, he comes from Chitzonius HaDibur, where it could appear that it's separate, but a Yid really comes from Pnimius HaDibur, which Pnimius HaDibur is the way Dibur is originally inside of Machshava, where a person is calculating what he's going to say inside of Machshava. And over there, the Dibur is also one, in our case, one with the Eibishter, and by the person, one with the original seichel, the original flow of machshava that the person has. Now, since we're living in Galus, we don't feel that level where we come from the Eibishter's machshava or Pnimius HaDibur, where everything's flowing and constantly connected, where a person could actually feel the Eibishter's in control, and we're still blindsided by the fact that it appears like nature is running its course because of the klipa that surrounds a person in Galus. So that blockage is putting layers over reality that you can't see the truth, and you can't see how the Eibishter is running things every single second. So a person, by davening or on Shabbos and Yom Tov, is given the opportunity to reunite this level that a Yid is on Pnimius HaDibur, that he's able to reconnect and show how the world is taka one with the Eibishter. Now, in truth, the level of Chochma and Bina, which is constantly flowing, over there, that never stops. And it doesn't rely on a Yid making that connection or not, because the world has to keep running regardless. So, on that level, the world never stops. But on the lower level, we're talking about a Yid has to make that connection with Pnimius HaDibur. So, a Yid has that opportunity of making that connection, and when he doesn't, that connection doesn't exist. So now that we're in Golas, the Chachamim made Moedim D'Rabbanan. Now typically, regular Moedim would be that it comes into a person's understanding that the Eibishter is so great, And he says that he's even greater than I could understand, and he admits that the Eibishter is awesome. But that's a haidah that comes into das. The Chachamim came along and they said that we're not even shaykh to this level because we're in Zman HaGolus, and they made a haidah to this haidah, that they're telling a person, even though you understand nothing, you should still bow to the Eibishter. Now, practically what this means is that there's an example given, like somebody that's able to understand that there's a person that has unbelievable moichin, and he understands a little bit of the greatness of this person, of how wise he is, and because of that, he'll admit to him on something that he disagrees with him because he knows that this person must be smarter than him. But it's still a level of Haidah. That's the Haidah that comes into Seichel. There's a greater level of Haidah, like we're talking about before, a Haidah to the Haidah, like a person that has no understanding on the greatness of this smart person. Or the marshal, like a farmer or a poor person that sees the king, and he has no understanding about any of the greatness of the king, so it's not even possible for him to have a haidah that comes into Seichel. He just knows one thing: the king's the king, and he must be awesome. Now, this higher level, which actually finds itself in a lower place, the Haid Shebahid, is the lowest part of the person that's still considered connected to the person himself. Meaning to say, when a person does speech and action, so that's the person, the way he's relating to somebody else. But the way the person relates to himself, you could have Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, and Hoid. And that's where it stops. Hoid is the lowest part of the person himself. We say that Hoid refers to the kidneys, where a person thinks over before he gives hashpah through Yesod. A person thinks over what exactly he's going to give over. That's a pnimius level of Netzach and Hoid, the two kidneys. But the chitzonistic level of Netzach and Hoid, which are the two legs that support a person, that's already considered just a support for the body. But the torso is the person himself. Here's the way Chassidus spells it out. So Yesod, or the two legs, that's considered a hashpah for someone else, or just as a helper, a support for the original aspect of the body. Now, we say that Yomi Lula the Rashbi came out on Hoid Shebahid, and the reason for this is as follows. During this Mana Bayis, there were certain High Giluyim that took place. During Matan Torah, there was High Giluyim, but these Giluyim weren't the highest Giluyim possible that the Eibishter could bring into the world. There's a Giluy of Pnimius Atik that's from the highest level that the Eibishter wanted to bring into the world during the time of the Churban, during the time of Rashbi. And in order for this Giluy, which is so great, in order for it to make touchdown in our world, it needed a Keli in order to be able to hold it. Now, in general, when you talk about lower levels of light, so you can have a Keli that'll be an equal counterpart and it'll allow for that light to express itself. We're talking here about a light that never came down, a light from the times of Mashiach, and there is no Keli, if you look in the entire Seder Shtalshus, that will allow for this light to express itself. The only place this light can express itself is in the lowest level in Hoid Shebahid. And over here he says that we're not going on Malchus being the lowest level because we're talking about a Rashbi who was Teresh Baal Peh, and over there Tanoim go on the Midas of the person, which is the torso, which goes on the goof itself, and that's why Hoid Shebahid is the lowest of that level. So lower than Hoid Shebahid is already a place of Klipa, and we say that someone that doesn't bow by Moedim, so Lasad Lavoi, his Shidra will turn into a snake, because outside of Hoid Shebahid, once you go past that level, there could be a Yanika for Chitzonim, there could be a Yanika to Klipa, and over there is where the Nachash HaKadmoni is found, and that's where all the problems start. You could have parasites. But in Hoyche B'Hoid, it still belongs to the person, and it's still part of Kedusha, and it's still an Inyan of Klippa can't get in over there. In general, we say that Klippa could only attach itself to the outside skin and hairs of a person, but it can't make itself into Pneumius of the person, internal organs that we're referring to over here. It can't go in over there. Now the question is, why is it that something that's very high up, this great light, it could only express itself in a very low level, in the lowest level, and not just the regular Hoid of Das, but a Hoid of Hoid, where a person doesn't understand anything at all? It's because of the concept Noah Tchlasim B'Seifim, Seif Mitchlasim. Now, what's a good example to explain that is when someone uses a mashal. So even though the mashal is not connected to that which you're saying itself, it's not the original oyer, it's a keli, it's a lavush, you're talking about something that's extraneous, that's different from what the original thought is, but by using that example, that davar gashmi that a person can relate to, that allows for the original oyer, which in and of itself it would not be able to express itself at all. You wouldn't be able to explain, let's say, this very high concept to, let's say, a little child. But by this that you explain to the child by way of using, let's say, his bicycle, it allows for the child to understand what you're talking about. And it allows for this great light to express itself through this mashal. The same thing here is the Eibishter's great light can express itself in something that's very, very low. And that's the whole part of Hilula de Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, is that the Eibishter wanted this great light, this Pnimis Atik, to come down into the world, and this is the day that was chosen. The day that Rabbi passed away, it's a culmination of all of his work that was done his whole life, which is written elsewhere that this world was considered Beilul Yadamya, that it's like a wedding hall, that we say a person should grab and eat any chance he has. Meaning to say in mitzvahs, a person should grab every mitzvah he has, and a person's life culminates at the end, the last day, everything goes up together with him, and it's the highest point of the person's life. And the same thing took place, Rashbi, that this great light expressed itself, even though his whole life was Megal Razin Dairaisa, he revealed all the great secrets, but the deepest secrets were able to be revealed on the day he passed away. Now, in general, when we talk about Siddur Eim, really what it is we're trying to refine this klipa that covers up, that blocks, that we shouldn't be able to see, that the Eibishter is running the show every single second. This klipa that is neshtalshel from Malchus Datzilus, the Inyan of Soirim, of a behema, the Inyan of Ban, that because the light is at a lower point, it's not in full intensity, it's able to get mixed in klipas noiga, and what we're trying to do during the Sphira is to be mevar the good from the bad. And it's done in two ways. Number one is you have to chase away the bad, and then number two is you have to bring about a gili or into each specific midah, and that'll also chase away the bad completely. And we start out chesed shebechesed, the first day of the Omer, and goes on and on until you get to Hoid Shebahoid, which over there you finish chasing away the klipa from the person's guf, up until the point where we say Eida Gala Zeh, that there's a cutoff point between the last level of Hoid Shebahoid and the klipa in between Malchus of Atzilus down into Biyah. There's a parsa, there's oisies, there's this blockage that doesn't allow the klipa to get more chayis than it's supposed to get, and it doesn't allow the kedusha to shine forth more chayis than it's supposed to shine. And by a person refining himself and bringing down this light up until the Hoid Shebahoid, we say that every day there's a new great light that comes forth, that shines, that separates the good from the bad. And on the last day of the Hoid Shebahoid that we're going on, you have this gili of Pnimius Atik, this unbelievable light, a gili from the times of Mashiach that shines forth on this day of Hoid Shebahoid on Lag Baimer. Now, that parsa that stops, the gal, which refers to Lag Baimer, that gal, that pile of bricks that Lavan and Yaakov set up between each other, that the Klipa and Kedusha shouldn't cross into each other's fields, exists also between Keser and Atzilus. In general, Yaakov is a level of Atzilus, and that's Adam Elyon, that's Zah. And there's a lower level of Lavan, which is in Klipa already. That's what we're talking about until now, in Biyah. And there's a higher level of Lavan, which is Luban Elyon, which over there it's pure, there's no tameh at all, it's the original shirish of Lavan, and that's in Tayu. Like we say by Tzeras, that if a person is completely white, then there's no tumah at all. But if it's a partial white, then it goes into the category of Tzeras, and there's tumah over there. So there also, between Tayu and Atzilus, there's also this inyan of this parsa that blocks that there shouldn't be too much light. Now one last point, it says that when a Yid learns Torah, he causes that the Eibusher should learn opposite him, and that means that there's a new Gila, there's a new Amshacha of light that comes down into this world, and that's why it says, as Hashem Marta Yoim, the word Marta is an inyan of, it's like a verb, you're causing to call, you're causing that there should be this light to come down into this world. By you learning Torah, you're showing this connection that the Eibusher is one with nature, and he's keeping the world going every single second.